start talking here about page setups and publishing. I've found over the years using AutoCAD, oftentimes what happens is you find yourself in situations where your layout has changed or you need to add a layout to one of your drawings. Oftentimes also you've built your layouts, everything looks great. You've got your 24 by 36 or your 30 by 42s or whatever typical page size you plot to. I know some of you out there actually plot 11 by 17 typically and need to increase the size to a larger. What a lot of people find themselves doing is the old open, plot, close, open, plot, close, you know, and you go back and forth and back and forth. You got 30, 40, 60, 80 sheets. It's going to take you the better part of a morning or a day to complete that whole process. So here I have my 24 by 36. If I want to plot this to a half size or some other size, here's what a lot of us have done previously. We open up plot and we make the changes, right? We go through, we change our plotter, we change the page size, we go down and we hit OK, we close it, we move on. Or maybe we flip to the next tab and the next tab and the next tab. Well, what we're going to talk about today is actually saving these settings in what's called a page setup so that we can both apply it to a layout very quickly to change the settings for an existing layout, or we can use this to then change the settings when we actually go to plot that particular layout, either one by one or through the use of the page setup, or actually through the publish dialog, or if you're using sheet sets and the sheet set manager, then we can also publish those sheet sets using these page setups, and at that point we call them page setup overrides. So I've got an example file here I've just put together real quick. I've got, in this case, down here at the bottom, you see I've got 3 different tabs here. They're all pretty much the same thing in my case. They're all the same floor plan, but just as an example, I have A1, 2, and 3. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and set this up. A lot of people will be familiar with this. You can right-click here on one of the tabs and go into the Page Setup Manager here. And when I enter this here, we're going to see a few things, and I kind of want to clarify what we're seeing here. In this particular drawing, I see I have my D size A1, 2, and 3, and then they're followed by some text in parentheses. That indicates to me that one of my page setups has been applied to these layouts. Down here at the bottom, I have my 24 by 36 half size and my Architectural Imperial DWF page setups. And notice those don't have any asterisks or anything like that indicating that they're in use. What's happening here is that these are just the settings I've saved for my, essentially for my plot dialog, and then I've taken one of these page setups and applied it to these other layouts. So let's take a look at what is contained in here. I'm going to come over, I'm going to select my Architectural Imperial first. I'm going to say Modify on the right side. And this should look familiar. If you've never used page setups, this should still look familiar to you. This looks identical, for the most part, to the plot dialog. So what I see here is all the settings, including my plotters. I can choose from all my installed plotters and my PC3s, whatever it is that I have available to me here. I can choose then, after I've selected a plotter, all the page sizes that are made available to that plotter. All these settings that we're used to being able to modify or having to modify when we plot, I can actually apply all these. I can choose all these settings. But when I hit OK, down here at the bottom, what I'm not going to get is an actual print. What I'm going to get is a saved group of setups. It's saved into this page setup. Of course, your CTV files over here as well. So I say OK. And in this case, because I've made an edit, this is what's nice about using page setups. I've made an edit to this Architectural Imperial, which has been, you see up here, it's applied to these other layouts. If I make one change here, it says the page setup you just edited is referenced by additional layouts in the current drawing. Would you like to update all layouts that reference this page setup? If I say yes, the simple change I made earlier, which was applying the monochrome CTB to my Architectural Imperial DWF page setup, when I say yes, now I'll see that all these other page setups, if I modify, no, I can't modify because they're actually being overridden by using this. Basically what I did is applied the monochrome CTB to the other 3 layouts which are using that same page setup. So rather than having to go into every page setup, in every layout, A1, 2, and 3, and make that same change. I could do it in one location, have that same change applied throughout all the others. So now, if I just decide to print A1, the monochrome CTV will already have been selected. Now you see there's another one I saved here, another page setup called 24 by 36 half size. These names, when I hit new, I get to decide what the name is. You can decide if it's if you use the terminology like Arch D or D size or something like that, 24 by 36. You can call it your 18, your 12 by 18, however you want to name it. I could name it Michael if I wanted to. I'm going to take a look at this one. I'm going to select that one and say Modify. And you see what I've done in here is actually selected a different plotter. In this case, the DWG to PDF. This is the native PDF writer in AutoCAD now. And what I've done in there, and I don't have time in this webinar to get into how this is achieved, but what I've done is created a custom page size that is 18 by 12. It's a half size for my 18 by 36. A lot of people are actually using, rather than full size 24 by 36, are using the 11 by 17. Yeah, they'll use 11 by 17, so the actual layout is 22 by 34, so it's slightly smaller. So you can print 11 by 17 as a true 1 to 2 plot, half size. I just made up my, some plotters are capable of printing 18 by 12. And so, okay, so I've added this custom page, and now I've also come down and done a couple things here. I've set my scale at 1 to 2. So I'm printing half size, and this was nice when they finally added this to AutoCAD, that they've added the scale line weights feature. So rather than having to also apply a different CTV file with all my line weights set to half size or half thickness, I can just say scale line weights, and my full-size plot, my 24 by 36, will print to half size with my line weights all scaled appropriately. So rather than having to, I'm going to cancel out of this one, rather than having to hit the plot button and make all those changes, here's my DWG, 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks, all those changes every single time I plot. Now in the plot dialog, right now I'm on Arch, which one am I on? I'm on my D-size A1 layout. When I go to print this, if at this moment I would like to print a half size, this is of course my PDF, but usually this would be if I'm outputting to my actual printer. Now I can just select 24 by 36 inch half size, and notice my plotter was changed, my page size was changed. Down here the scale and line weights, and if you did have different CTV files applied, it would also have changed. Any of these settings get changed with just 1 click. Yeah, good question. Somebody asked if would I want to print a half-size PDF. It depends on exactly what PDF viewing tools you have. I like to print PDF or DWF right out of the gates. I may or may not print the half size to PDF. If I'm just going to email the PDF to somebody, no, I just print full size and let them deal with printing it. Usually, though, I oftentimes set my page setups to print to one of the electronic output devices, a PDF, DWF, depending on what PDF writer you use, just because I like to say, for one, I might need to email it at some point, and I also kind of like to double check that I'm getting everything set right. Once you're really confident with the page setups and publishing everything like that, then you can push right to a physical printer at half size. But yeah, in this case, I'm just using a DWG to PDF plotter as an example, but this could literally be any plotter that you have available. We had another question: is it best to use the DWG to PDF writer over the QPDF writer that I have been using? So that's a good question, and we'll just I will answer that. Just we're not going to talk too much about the actual plotting side of things. We'll get into more of it with publishing, but the DWG to PDF, we like that it's there. It's nice that it's native, because now you don't necessarily have to go find another PDF writer. QPDF is fine, though. We used to use that here at CAD-1 until the DWG to PDF became available again. We also do have it available sometimes when we're showing examples when we're using Revit. It doesn't have a PDF writer built into it, so not as a plotter. So yeah, the DWG to PDF works well. I won't say that you should be using it over any of your others. We are also now using a system called Bluebeam, which you'll kind of see popping up here and there. You see it on my ribbon here. It's another software we, shameless plug here. We also are reps for this Blue Beam PDF management software, and you'll probably see it pop up here in a little bit. So you can use whatever PDF writer you're comfortable with. Works just fine. So now I showed here, I can just select 24 by 36, and boom, I can print this drawing to the half size and be done. I didn't have to make all these changes. When it comes time to print then the A2, or maybe I go to a different page, a different sheet, a different file that has different layouts in there, if I have created the same page setup in that other file, again, I can just select that 24 by 36 half size and output that drawing as well. Now,
which I think answers that next question.
Yeah, so the question was, are the page setups specific to this drawing only, or all future drawings that I want to print? So what happens when I say Page Setup Manager here and I create a new one or save this page setup at that stage is saved only to this file. So what I recommend is once you get comfortable with page setups, or if you're already using them, however you get them established, put them in your template. Open up your DWT or however many templates your office uses. Go ahead and place that page setup in that template, so it will then be available in each file you create going forward. That also then leads to the advice I always give, is to use templates. I know there's quite a few. I noticed there was quite a few of my former students in the audience this time, and you've heard me say it many times. If you're not using templates to create new files, you need to start using templates. Don't do a save as on your old files. So your page setup should be there in the template. But what happens if I create a new file, or I have an existing file that does not have those page setups in it? Maybe you've already got a project going, you went ahead and built a page setup in your template, but your existing projects don't have that yet.
You can also import page setups from other drawings.
Correct, yep. So what happens here is that we go to the Page Setup Manager again. Let me do that one more time. I right-click here on my layout. I go to Page Setup Manager, and we see right here an Import button. When I click the Import button, I just go and browse for the file. And notice here at the bottom, I can select from any of these file types. I can select from DWGs or DWT would be most likely what you're looking for. In my case, I've only created these page setups I'm working with inside of a DWG. I haven't saved this to a template yet, but I could also select template and pull from one of my office templates. When I select one of these drawings and hit open, what it's going to do is give me a list of the page setups, not the layouts. If I want to bring a layout from another drawing, that's a different process. This is only going to bring through the page setup, those settings I created. There's my 24 by 36 half size, and I hit OK. And now I have pulled that particular layout, that particular page setup, into my new drawing. Right now I've only got this layout 1 in the drawing, and then my 24 by 36. Actually, I got 2 layouts, but I'm on layout 1. So what happens now is if I would like to additionally apply one of these page setups, actually let me do this. Let me import one more, my Architectural Imperial. If I grab this page setup and say Set Current, what that has done is actually taken those Architectural Imperial settings and applied them to layout 1, which I am currently viewing. So that's another method that you can use to quickly to use a page setup to apply settings to your drawing. It's not something you're going to do terribly often because hopefully, again, your template already has that layout built into it and you can just copy the layouts across. But we can use that to change the settings of what we actually see here. So now I can save the drawing and it has this same page setup which I have saved in my other files. One thing this helps with, aids with, when we get to publishing, is publishing more consistently. Then we know we've applied those same exact settings. You're not going to open up that 13th or 15th or 25th drawing, hit the plot button, and forget to change the paper size, or forget to change the scale line weights, and you end up with that situation where one drawing in the middle of the entire set looks completely different because you forgot to change one setting. Using the page setups automatically applies all those settings for you. All right, so let's talk about then the publish side of things. So if you have any questions about page setups, just feel free to chime in. We're going to talk a little bit more about how they apply in the publish dialog in a moment. But if any questions come up, go ahead and type those in there. We can return to that. So when we are, and I'm going to close this blank file and not save changes here. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, one thing that happens a lot is, right, we need to print 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 sheets. Just happens. Well, to save time, what we would like, what we typically use, or the best tool we have for saving time, is to go into the Publish dialog. Those of you who've been using CAD for any length of time might remember something called batch plot. What's happened in recent versions of AutoCAD is they've kept the name. We keep the name batch plot, but wherever you see the word batch plot or wherever you see the word publish, they point at the exact same tool, which is the Publish tool. So we have several ways that we can get into this dialog. On the Output tab, we have a batch plot button here. Click that, and it will open up the batch plot, or actually the Publish dialog box. I can also access this here in the Application menu. I see the Publish tool right here. I'm going into these options on the right, just click Publish, and it will take me into that same place. Or I can go to Print, and it is called Batch Plot there. Why do they have so many different names, or why do they have it named differently in different places? I can't answer that. So they just decided to keep some of the old nomenclature around. You can also type Publish. In any case, when you start the batch plot, especially the first time when you start batch plot, what AutoCAD is going to do is open this dialog box, and you're going to get all kinds of stuff just listed out here. What's happening here is that AutoCAD, when you launch this, goes and reads all the open files you have. Every file you have open in AutoCAD at this moment. And I should take a step back. Actually, let me take one step back. Before I click the Publish or the batch plot command, what I want to make sure I've done is saved my drawing, saved any drawings I have open. My typical workflow is that I close any of the other files associated with this project. I ask all my coworkers to save and close as well. I'd rather they're not in there trying to make changes. And there's a particular reason for that we'll see here in a little bit. So I make sure everything's saved. I hit batch plot. AutoCAD is going to load in, the first time anyway, all the files that are currently open because this is checked. I can uncheck that. And the next time I go to plot, it will not load in all the open files. It will actually load in only the layouts of the current drawing, whichever one I'm currently looking at. So that will behave just a little bit differently. But when this happens, it's not the end of the world. What we're going to do in here now, though, is make some selections as to what we want to plot. Which layouts in which drawings do we want to output at this time? And then how do we want to output those? We do have up here at the top, we'll look at this in a moment, we have the ability to pull in existing sheet lists or previous sheet lists. If you're often printing the same group of drawings or you know you're going to print them multiple times, it's not hard to recall that information and apply it. We can also select right here at the top what the output device is going to be. The first option, or the first time you do this, it'll say plotter named and page setup. So just a moment ago we worked on page setups and we selected a plotter from that list. That page setup is then shown here. The applied page setup is shown in this list. If I want to, I can say publish and it will output each of the drawings I've listed to the device which is listed here in the page setup. Now, my recommendation, even if you're really comfortable with this, I don't know, I tend to be sometimes a little paranoid about outputting a bunch of 30 sheets of 24 by 36 paper and finding that I made a mistake, like I forgot to put my viewports on a non-printing layer. Happens all the time. So I like to still put up output the drawings to a electronic format, do a quick overview, and then from there I can push it to my physical plotter or send it out to my repro company. But you can select here DWF, DWFX, they're pretty much the same thing, and then a PDF as well. When you choose the PDF, it's going to use your DWG to PDF. So even if you are using one of those other plotters like QPDF, Bluebeam, Bullzip, any of those other publishers, This one is going to use the DWG to PDF that is native to AutoCAD. All right, so we selected what we're going to publish to. Usually where I go next, the order isn't critical here, but I come down to my drawing list and I see a list of all the layouts which were in the open drawings. At the top of that window here, I see a set of tools, one of which has a little green plus sign. I'm not quite sure why the icons are looking funny on mine at this moment, but I see one with a little minus sign. I see a up and a down arrow and a preview button here. So what's happening is as I select drawings here, and I'm not actually selecting drawings, I'm selecting layouts. Notice here I have unsaved drawing. That's the current, it's a drawing that I have open in the background here. It loaded in model space and the 2 layout tabs. What I'm going to do is select, using my shift key, that range and click the little minus and remove those, and I'm going to remove the model space. I don't want to plot my model space right now. Click minus here and remove the model space layout. So now I have just my 3 layouts. But I might come in here, and sometimes what happens is as you create more layouts here at the bottom of your screen or the bottom of your drawing, and then you load them in, they end up in a different order than you expect. So you can select each of these and use the up and down arrows now to change the order of the drawings. And I will say, I don't know if they've fixed this. There used to be a little bit of a glitch where if I loaded in a number of layouts at once from another drawing, the first layout would always end up at the end, and I would have to grab it and drag it up to the top. So if you're using an older version, you might see that behavior. So you always want to make sure you've double-checked that the layouts here are in the correct order. Now notice there's also this plus sign. This plus sign right here, what am I going to do with that? Well, what's happening is that this is going to allow me to browse to other files. In this case, I have another sample file here. And I can actually, without even having to open that file, I can actually load in the layouts from that drawing. I don't have to open it in order to print it now. Before we select that drawing, though, before we hit select at the bottom, we want to make sure we come down here and say what we want to include. Usually you're just going to say include the layouts. Just pull the layouts from that drawing. I am not going to print the model tab from that drawing. When I say select, then you'll see, and because I said prefix, there's a little option prefix, I see my page setup sample 2, D size S1, S2, and S3. They're now loaded into this list. Okay, so we go through, we can change the order again, we can pull in maybe the general notes drawing ends up at the bottom and you want to put it at the very top. Go ahead and do that. We're still not done though. Before we finish, we want to make sure we've clicked here on the options. Publish options here. You want to click on that and just verify that your settings are right. In the publish options here, we have some, because I'm actually plotting to a file, I'm plotting to electronic output, it's going to ask me where I want to output to, but it's also going to ask me again, it's going to prompt me for a name. So this isn't critical that we choose a location here because I've got prompt for name selected. So when I hit OK and publish, it'll ask me where do I want to save it. You do get the selection here. This is a common question we get. People have started using the publish tool, but they keep getting individual sheets. I'm printing 60 drawings to PDF. Why did I end up with 60 PDF files? In the options here, we can select if we're going to output to a multi-sheet file or a single sheet file, and every drawing gets output to its own file. I like multi-sheet, especially if I'm going to send this to somebody else who's going to print it. When I do multi-sheet, I can be certain that they get plotted in the right order. If you individual sheets, they kind of end up in alphanumeric order. They may or may not recollate them properly. So I like to send a multi-sheet. Of course, it does make a bigger file size. I have prompt for name selected, so it will ask me when I hit publish, it will ask me where to save it. You can also include layer information. DWF and PDF now will actually read AutoCAD layers. So depending on your preferences, if you maybe need to squeeze every last little bit out of your drawings, don't include layer information. So you want to send this to somebody and give them the option to turn off layers, to hide them, you can go ahead and include it. If you have layers hidden already, if you have a layer turned off or a layer frozen, it will not include that layer. It just gives them the ability to turn on and off layers which you do print, which are actually visible when you print. So if you have any kind of proprietary, any kind of sensitive data that you have on a frozen layer, it won't include that. So don't worry about that. You can also make this a password protected file, so you can then create a password and provide that to them. If you just want to torment some of your coworkers and make them type in Chris Porter rules. That's what
I do all the time here.
Yeah, so we could do something like that. I'm not going to do that. So we save all these settings and we hit OK. Now,
you should.
Password protect everything?
With Chris Porter rules.
Oh, yeah, of course. Or CAD-1 rules. Yeah, that's sure. So when we've done all this, we've set the publish options. Because I'm outputting to PDF, it's not, of course, going to give me the option to choose number of copies. We can include plot stamps. Publish in the background is nice to check because it'll let me continue to work in AutoCAD. Once I'm done here, I'm going to go ahead and hit the publish button here at the bottom. And we're going to see one more prompt here. It's going to ask me, of course, where to save this. I'm going to call this, I'll just call this 90% DDs. And it's going to then ask me to, oh, hang on a second, yes, I want to overwrite that. Then I get this prompt. Do you want to save the current list of sheets? This is what's really nice. This is the nicest part of the publish. Not only are you saving time by not having to open every file and print it, when the time comes that you need to reprint all or some or all of these plus some other sheets, we can actually say, yes, save this current list of sheets, give it a name, and what this is going to do, actually two things, select a location to save it, and then name it. And you notice it's saving this as what's called a DSD extension here. This is a sheet list, essentially. It's saving this list of drawings in the order I've specified. It's also going to save these publish options right here. All these settings that we just talked about are going to get saved in this DSD file, so I can hit the save button. Yes, I'm going to overwrite the existing one. I would give it probably a date, you know, a milestone or something like that. Publishing can happen in the background. It doesn't tie up your machine if you said publish in background. It gives you this warning just to let you know that's happening. When I say close, I then want to, let me zoom in a little bit here. I want to keep an eye on this icon right here. Looks like a little plotter. And you can, if you watch on my screen right now, you see it looks like it's feeding out little sheets of paper. And it's giving me progress reports as well. If I hover on that, it's telling me right now I'm at sheet 3 of 6. I wait a little longer, come down. Eventually it'll get to 6 of 6. Where's my prompt? There it is, 5 of 6. But notice I'm in AutoCAD right now, so I can continue working. If you're outputting 30, 40 sheets, in the past, you know, that would basically tie up that machine. You didn't have to go sit at somebody else's machine. I know a lot of offices had a separate machine that was kind of dedicated to stuff like that, like outputting work, out publishing, whatever it might be. Eventually, that icon will stop feeding out paper, and if you wiggle your mouse, if you're not touching the mouse, it won't give you this little balloon. But when you wiggle the mouse a little, it'll give you the plot and publish job complete. You can view the details. If you click the little link, it'll give you information. Sometimes this is good to know about because if you're like me, you get in a hurry and you forget to specify a path, and you just waited 25 minutes for 30 sheets to publish, and you forgot where you saved it. What I've done in the past is I've saved it to a different project, whatever project I last published to. So this tells me where it went. So mine went out here to this T drive, my webinar folder. So I can close that and I can make sure I can find it. You can also right-click on that plot icon, the plotter icon, and say View Plotted File. And what this is going to do is launch whatever application is the default. I chose PDF prior as I was publishing, so it opens up in this blue beam. This is our PDF software. So here's my blue beam, and because I selected multi-page PDF, of course they all look the same, but I can see here, there's S1, S2, and S3. They're all here in my PDF. Additionally, if I hadn't done that, if I had decided to just select the individual sheets, and I have to open each of them independently. So this is blue beam here. If anybody has any questions, or if you work with a lot of PDFs, we'd love to talk to you about this blue beam. It's a pretty fantastic software. So if I had published to DWF, and I right-clicked and said View Plotted File, it would have automatically opened in Design Review, which is also a fantastic piece of free software that Autodesk provides. All right, so I've output the work, notice there, I've output 6 drawings in, you can see down here at the bottom, 6 drawings. I output 6 drawings without having to open 6 drawings. I just did it from one file. Now, because I saved that sheet setup earlier, I can, with any drawing open, actually not the sheet, the page setup, I saved the sheet list. From any drawing, I can, this is one of the default AutoCAD files, the ACAD DWT that opens when you first launch AutoCAD. I can again hit batch plot, and now look at this, up here at the top where it says sheet list, it says none right now, but there's this little folder open, and I don't know, again, my icons for some reason, I think it's GoToMeeting that causes some of these weird graphic issues like this, but the little tiny folder with the down arrow, I click on that, and I'm going to say no, I don't want to save this sheet list. It always asks you if you want to save the current sheet list. I can go select that DSD file I created just a little while ago and say load, and it will then ask me if I want to, it says one or more sheets are currently in the sheet list. What do you want to do? Do you want to replace all the sheets in the list? It will replace what I see back here currently with the sheets in my my 90% DD set, or I can say append, and it will add the sheets listed in the 90% DD set. It will add that to the bottom of this list. So this is nice because then you can combine different sheet lists. Maybe you have a sheet list you created for the architecturals. Your structural consultant has any consultant has sent you their drawings, and you've gone ahead and created a sheet list for their work as well in separate DSD files. I can then combine them all together into a single published job. I'm going to say replace all. So there is that same list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6 drawings all listed there. Rather than having to hit plus and add in drawing after drawing after drawing and maybe 2 or 3 layouts per, and then reordering them, just like I did on Friday, right? Now it's Monday morning and somebody says, hey, can you plot another set of those? Now I just load that list and I've saved myself all that time. I can do it once and be done. If I did need to say, well, this is a one-off situation, I don't need my general notes, I'm just maybe printing a desk copy or just need to print off half the sheets, you can still modify it. I can grab one of the drawings and remove it from the list. I can also hit the plus sign here and go add in layouts from any other drawing I might like. So I can go here and add the layouts from that other drawing. So I've just appended those to the previous sheet list. So again, I can hit publish, and it's going to ask me where to save it. I'm not going to take the time to do that, but it would again ask me as well, would you like to save this sheet list? So if this is changing, you know, if those documents are always evolving, maybe you're doing check sets of your DD package or A package, and then you realize we need to add 3 sheets to that. You can just load in that DSD file, append it with whatever new layouts need to be part of it, and just resave over your DSD file, create a new one with a different date, a different milestone name, whatever it is you might be. You can also click the little save button right here and save that list as you're working. Now the reason I wanted you earlier to make sure you've saved all the drawings, actually the last thing you do in any of the drawings is save. Don't zoom, don't touch anything if you have them open. The reason I wanted you to do that is because if you try to save something, a DSD file which has not been saved, I'm just going to do a quick zoom here and do my batch plot and try to save this. It's going to give me this error here, this just a little warning. 1 or more drawings have unsaved changes. Save the file so that a DSD file can be created. I don't know why it requires you save. The last thing you have to do is save. This can be really, really frustrating when you spent, you know, 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour building the perfect sheet list. You've gone through, you've grabbed your general notes, and maybe you have 3 tabs in the general notes that apply at different parts the set and you've moved each of those layouts around, you've gone through and you've changed the order, you've loaded in 13 other files. I just make up numbers. 13 sound good today.
You did.
13 other files and 15 layouts.
15.5.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to do the whole thing. But you load those in, and then suddenly you go to save it and realize, oh, all I can do is publish. You can still publish. It'll let you do that. It won't let you save it. So guess what? Monday morning when you come back and you want to do that same plot, you have to do it all over again. When you do the same publish, you have to reload that entire set all over again.
Will this update automatically if you change the original sheets in your drawings?
So that's a very good question. It will. So right now I'm looking at page setup sample 1, D size A, 1, 2, and 3. Earlier I had loaded in. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's.
We did have a question earlier from Ronald, but we'll get back to that towards the end.
I'm going to load in this set right here, replace all. So I don't have sample 2 open. That file is not open. If somebody goes in after I've saved this, if I go in and change D size S1, make any changes in there, all this is doing is saving a list of what drawings to look at. When you hit the publish button, it is going to go look at the current saved version of that file. That is why I like to say make sure your coworkers have saved their work. And this happens, it seems like it's pretty logical, but what happens is you're on a deadline, right? You got to make your UPS shipment at 4:30 on Friday so it arrives on time, which means you've got every available intern in the office working on every drawing. Make sure before you hit publish that everybody's saved, because it's going to publish the last saved version. It's not going to see what they've got on their drawing, on their screen at the moment that hasn't been saved. But it will pull that most recent copy through, the most recent version. All right, so do we have another question?
I was familiar. How do you delete a page setup that is now obsolete?
How do you delete a page setup which is not obsolete? So this is going back here. So we'll get to that here in a second.
Yeah.
Let me finish in here. Now the publish dialog also has a few other options. Earlier I plotted to PDF. I'm going to select something else. I'm going to say plotter named and page setup. And actually this doesn't really directly apply. I can plot to any device here. But we noticed in the sheet list there were some other columns. Earlier all I did was look at the names and change the order. Let's take a look at the page setup column though. Right now it says default and architectural imperial DWF. If I click on that, here we go. Here is that page setup I looked at earlier, 24 by 36 half size. I can select that, and if this 24 by 36 inch half size, maybe I've got that plotting to my full size HP plotter, whatever it might be, my actual paper output device. Because I have up here selected plotter named and page setup, what happens when I hit publish is my size A1 drawing goes to that plotter. These others go to each of the plotters that are assigned there. That can be problematic if these don't all look at the exact same layout currently. You're going to end up with paper popping out of every device in your office. Trust me, that's one of those ask me how I know. When I was learning how to do this, all of a sudden every printer went crazy in my office and started outputting paper of every conceivable size. So what I do here, if I do in fact want to print all these drawings to the same device and they're not currently pointed at the same device, I use my shift key to select the entire range, and then I just grab one of these drawings and say 24 by 36 inch half size, and notice how it applied that page setup to all the drawings in that file. So what that means, again, maybe you're just starting out using page setups, you've only built it into your general notes page, which is here at the top of the list. Even if my sample 2 drawing doesn't have 24 by 36 inch half size loaded into it yet, I can still publish it at this time using that same page setup. Or I can click import, and then I can browse to the template or to the drawing which contains the appropriate page setup, import it down here. I don't have that. This is the same one I already have in here. I can import that through and then apply that same page setup to all of the drawings in the list. So this is another time saver if you have already built a set of drawings for a project and you would then like to publish them all using the same settings. If they're not already set with the same settings, you can import that from anywhere, from any DWG or DWT. All right, so let me take a step back here. I'm going to say no, I don't want to save that. So there was a question earlier, what if you don't want a page setup? Maybe it's obsolete, you have, you've replaced the plotter, whatever it might be. Unfortunately, at that stage, you do have to come into the Page Setup Manager in each file. That's the unfortunate part. Once you've gone through and you've followed my advice here and you've built these in your template, every file in the project has the same page setup in it now, and you want to remove it, what you're going to have to do is just come in here and right-click. This is a right-click on the old page setup here and say delete. It deletes it from only the current file. That's the thing here. It's only going to delete it from this file. I then have to go into each of the additional files, and you'll notice if I right-click on this one and go to Page Setup Manager, this is Sample 2. Architectural DWF here is still here. And that's really the only way to address it. In that case, if you have a page setup which is now obsolete, again, the plotter has been replaced. You know, it got corrupted somehow. I don't know. You've all worked with AutoCAD long enough to know odd things happen like that. You might need to just inform your staff that, hey, that particular page setup is no longer valid. Please, you know, if you see it, go ahead and delete it, or just ignore it, so that it doesn't cause any issues that might crop up. So there's another question. Can you overwrite old page setup using Sheet Set Manager? So if you are in the Sheet Set Manager, I guess I haven't particularly looked at that. I don't know if I have any sheet sets here. I might have something. Nope, I've already deleted that one. I actually don't know if you can overwrite old page setups using the Sheet Set Manager. I think the page setup actually has to be built into the template. There is a Manage button in there. I apologize, I don't have a sheet set available here at the moment. You might be able to access it there. Yes, I think there is a Page Setup Manager there. And what that's going to do is allow you to make changes and save it back to the template, which has been defined as the plot settings template for that sheet set. A couple more questions here. How does publish in Sheet Set Manager differ from just publishing the way you have shown? The major difference here is that when you publish from the Sheet Set Manager, it is actually going to go directly to the publish command. It's actually going to just start publishing those drawings which you have saved in the Sheet Set Manager, and it's going to publish each of those sheets according to the settings you have saved. It's not going to give you the option to oh, actually I do have one there. Let me go I do have an example one here. Let me go to publish here. So what I'm doing is right-clicking on the yoke assembly one, the name of my sheet set, go to publish. If I choose one of these options, DWF or PDF or publish to plotter, it's just going to use whatever page setup is assigned to each of those layouts. And that's it. However, but it uses the same process, and it's going to publish whatever has been defined. Here in the publish, we see we can actually go in and always forget where it is. We can go in and actually define which drawings get published. You know, we can turn that on and off. But if I say down here at the very bottom, publish dialog box, what this is going to do is open up the same dialog box we just worked on here and automatically load in all the layouts, all the sheets that were part of this sheet set, which had been defined as plotting. They've been told that they were part of the plottable list. So it automatically takes me there. So this is nice because it does give me, well, for one, it automatically builds the list for me, but then it does give me the option to override any of the settings I might need to. Maybe today I want to override one drawing in particular. I want to change some of the sheet set publish options here. I want to have it, instead of a multi-sheet file, I want it to go to a single sheet. I hit publish, and then it's basically once you're at this stage, it's exactly as the publish dialog we just looked at. Any other questions in there, Chris, that we haven't addressed yet?
Nope.
Okay. So feel free to type any additional questions. Oh, I did want to show one more option here for publishing. Sometimes you have a situation like this where you have, let me just do this real quick. I'm going to create a whole bunch of layouts, and of course I would rename these something logical. Sometimes you have a situation though in a given single file that you're working on, you've got 8, 10, 12, you have a bunch of layouts in there and you want to publish some of the layouts. I don't necessarily want to output every single one of these pages, every one of these sheets I've created here, because oftentimes you'll have also in here maybe your 8.5 by 11 RFIs and ASIs and those kind of things. So you just want to output the full size. You can actually select the layouts that you would like to output by using the Shift key. I've selected D-size S1. I'm going to go here to D-size S3, number 3, and click while I'm holding my Shift key. And notice that they subtly change color. They're white. When I right-click then, I get this option, Publish Selected Layouts. And what AutoCAD does is build a sheet list in here for me of just the selected layouts. Notice D-size S3, number 4 is not in here. You can also use the Control key to select multiple layouts. And then you can grab them and change the order in here if you need to. And then from here on, it's just the exact same process as the other publish. So you can also add in additional layouts from other drawings, remove any that maybe you got in there by accident.
I'm having an issue when I publish a set of drawings. It cuts off a portion of my drawing, but when I plot using the same settings on an individual basis, they plot full drawing. What could be doing what's going on? Okay,
so Sean has a question. He's using the publish command, and sometimes with the publish we get different results. We're seeing different results than just using the plot. So what possibly could be happening is, I guess I'd have to do a little investigation there if we're talking about publishing to using the publish command to the same plotter, or publishing maybe to PDF but plotting to paper. Sometimes that's an issue. We'll see that the page, that 24 by 36 inch page which we have saved for our PDF writer, is not the same 24 by 36 inch page we have saved for our HP printer or our OSE or whatever output device you might have. They're slightly different. The biggest problem was probably tied to the margins or the plottable area. Essentially it's your layout dash line right there. Sometimes those are slightly different. Maybe one has a 1/2 inch margin and another one has 3/4 inch margin, so it's going to cut off part of the page. That would probably be my first place to look, depending on the output device, checking the paper settings. Other than that, we'd probably want to just take a look at it with you and see exactly what you're getting. I can't think of anything else in particular in the plot other than when you publish.
Jesse says it might be the layout or title block shifted on one or more of the drawings.
That's a good. That is a good suggestion. You might be actually applying a page setup. Again, depending on which of the settings. There's so many variables at play here that if you're using one or the other. Earlier when I showed you, we can select a bunch of drawings and apply a page setup to all of them. What happens is if maybe this 24 by 36, remember I mentioned earlier that page setup resides just in the file. Even though each of my files might have a page setup called 24 by 36 half size, really what's happening is that those are separate page setups in each of the files. So what that means is sometimes somebody might come into one of those drawings in the list, go into the page setup manager, I have to select one here, go into Page Setup Manager. They might have come in here and made a modification. They might have modified that in maybe the general notes sheet, which you are then applying to the others. One of the things that can be changed here is the plot offset. They didn't like the results. They shifted it up and over a 1/2 inch or 1/8 of an inch. and then you go and apply that to all of your layouts when you go to plot, and it shifts them all that way, and you end up with an unexpected result. And I guess that's sort of a word of caution out there, is that there are a few places in here. There's actually a lot of ways that this process can be broken, essentially. The idea here is to save you time, help you coordinate, and improve consistency. The best way to do that, once you've gone through, if you're in charge of this for your office, you need to make sure you go through and educate the rest of the users in the office so that they know exactly all the implications of the different settings here. One of the things might also be they've made changes in here, or anybody ever had this happen to them? You're in the plot dialog, and you're looking at a sheet and it seems odd. Suddenly your 24 by 36 is 8.5 by 11 when you're in that actual layout. What might have happened is somebody did a one-off print. Like here, I'm going to do my 24 by 36 inch half size, and somebody clicked this apply to layout button, or they actually checked this box right here, save changes to layout. What happens then is that all these settings, one of which is paper size, are going to get applied to this layout back here. So watch what happens when I click apply to layout. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and we'll just save that. It did create that PDF for me real quick. What has happened here is that it might not look odd, but what it's done is scaled my drawing half size and applied a different page size to it. So you can end up with all kinds of strange things if somebody uses that apply to layout or checks the box that says apply to layout, and then they make changes. You end up messing up a lot of your drawings. So this is where page setups again can come back and help save you. I can just come back here and reapply my architectural. You notice that it just kind of jumped in the background. What I did there is reapply the proper settings for full-size plotting here, which are saved into my Architectural Imperial DWF page setup. I just had to double-click on it or set current, and it reapplies those settings, I can see right here, to the current layout. So sometimes that can save you if something has been accidentally changed there. All right, so if you continue to have problems there, Sean, let us know. We can help you with that.
We always seem to, here's another question, we always seem to get errors when publishing from Sheet Set Manager. I don't see where we are doing anything different from other publish. Are known bugs in the Sheet Set Publish that make it not as desirable a way to publish?
I guess we'd like to see the actual errors that you're getting. If you do want our assistance with that, if you could do a screen capture of the error you get, it's always helpful for us. Or we can do a go-to meeting with you as well and watch as you do a publish command. We can see exactly what happens. There could be some issues though. So sometimes if the template is not available, I've seen maybe the template is set behind some sort of a administrative rights kind of access thing. Certain things aren't set up right. That can throw some errors. It says, oh, we don't know where that template is. If the template got renamed, if it got moved, anything like that, what happens when you hit publish, and as you're setting up sheet sets, it's trying to read all those paths that are part of the sheet set. It's trying to find those when you go to plot, and if those don't exist anymore, those drawings or those templates, that could throw some errors. But sometimes the particular error you're getting is what the clue we need to figure out exactly what's happening.
Jesse asks, what are the advantages of using a PDF writer like Bluebeam versus Acrobat? I would suggest to anybody who's out there in the industry, go up to the Bluebeam site and actually watch some of the tutorials or the videos that are up there and take a look at the difference. It's going to have a familiar interface, however, the cost is less expensive, and there's so many more tools that are out there inside of Bluebeam, and there's more coming out all the time. So I would say go up, take a look at that. If we need to set up some type of a go-to meeting, we can do that also with the guys from Bluebeam to show you guys the benefits of actually using Bluebeam over any other product that's out there.
I will say that at this stage here, when you're outputting your work, well, we see there one of the advantages is that Bluebeam actually has a plugin. So rather than using the publish, you can use that, or you can set it as a plotter. But actually using it as a plotter, so when I'm in publish or in my page setup, assigning, again, this goes back to the earlier question, assigning the Acrobat plotter versus the DWG to PDF versus Qt PDF, any of those, really there's not a major advantage just for outputting. The advantages come on the back end when you need to modify, control, work with versioning and things like that, and that's a completely separate discussion there. We can certainly address outside of the webinar.
When I plot to PDF,
another question here.
Yeah, when I plot to PDF, it will show wipeout frame even when I have turn off frame in setting.
So I believe we have had a few calls that are very similar to this. I have seen we've seen wipeout frames that they refuse to hide. I've seen this with several different frames, image frames, wipeout frames, really those two. They're almost the exact same thing, really, in AutoCAD's mind. We'd have to take a look at that. There's actually several things that can arise. We do have, let's see, wipeout frame. We have three options here now. We have 0, 1, and 2. I believe 0 turns it off. 1 will allow it to be visible and it will plot. And if you set it to 2, it will be visible but will not plot. So verify that your wipeout frame setting is in fact set to 0 or set to 2. We might also then check to see if there's also, it depends on the output device you're using. I have seen with certain brands of plotters, and I'm talking actual physical output devices, I have seen them behave oddly and handle wipeouts poorly. There's a couple in particular brands I won't name, though, that tend to handle wipeouts very, very badly. They'll either print a solid black fill where the wipeout is. So those of you who put wipeouts in the backs of your callouts and that kind of thing, detail bubbles, sometimes they'll act funny. Jesse notes wipeouts don't play well with PostScript drivers. HPGL is the way to go. So, it's all about what you've got installed, what your settings are, which plotters you're using. Sometimes those will act a little bit goofy with your wipeouts. So we can take a look at that with you. We can take a look at the drawing. We can do GoToMeeting and take a look at that, your settings on your end. So we're winding down here. If there aren't any other additional questions, I will point out one thing when we finish this. Let's pull up the presentation one more time. I just wanted to show everybody some of our upcoming events. We do have some more. Sorry, I'm not very good at.
I'm going to go ahead and stop recording so we can post this part up to the YouTube section.